All right, you know me. I like to tell people what day it is. What day is it? We get to
And we
figure out.
never know. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday,
The 13th.
July. Oh, it's my father's birthday. My
It is your
hero.
father's birthday. I want to take him out for a bologna sandwich. He said he wants.
Yeah. Yeah, just so in case we don't put this on the recording, Andy, my father, who is my hero, for many different reasons, but mainly because his father was a very abusive alcoholic and beat my grandmother pretty much all the time, and then I think beat his children. And one of the things that my father restricted in his daily behavior with us, mainly because he was gone at the beginning of the stages of his parental governorship in my life, is that he said, I will not beat you the way my father beat me. And so I always told him that was because I was a bad kid. I mean, I was so busy doing everything and running around, and so he's always been my hero for making that generational change, because I wouldn't have been able to emotionally contain what it must have felt like to get beat. You know,
not many people probably can change from that.
And he was able to contain that and say, mainly because he was a truck driver, so he could go out on the road and maybe get rid of some of that, generational infliction that happened from his very abusive alcoholic, even though he always says that his father was the kindest man when he wasn't drinking. And I always thought, so one day I told my dad, I guess we're in the box, so I'll just keep talking. I told my dad that if you look back on when my father's father was happening and growing up as a young man, it was directly in Prohibition. And in East Tennessee, I guarantee, without any sort of state governing of what they were putting in that alcohol, who knows what that guy was drinking?
Jeez.
Rock gut.
Green River.
Antifreeze.
And I think about that over here with these kids, with this unregulated black market that we have everywhere, really. It doesn't even have to be in East Chattanooga. I see drugs everywhere. Street pharmaceuticals is...
Street pharmaceuticals. The
Crazy
RXX.
scary, yeah. I mean, yeah, the little change in a chemical composition and you're blind.
Because the
you're
whole
crazy.
Purpose, because the whole purpose is to find a cheaper way to produce it and make more money off of it. Right?
Yeah, no
so
doubt
so
about it.
so if you can find something in
Like
your
the
cabinets,
crazy bath salts. Whatever happened
Yeah,
to that?
the
We
bath
don't hear about
salts.
bath salts anymore.
I know, isn't that crazy? My grandmother used to always tell me a story about this ex-aunt that I had. She married someone in the family that she always would go around the hills of East Tennessee and north or western North Carolina and look for these bath salts that evidently made her go to the bathroom for days. I guess they call that colonics now, where you get colonic. They said Elvis died with 40 pounds of crap in him because he was so addicted to, couldn't come off the high of getting on the stage, that he had to get the low through those, just all these pills. And they said that it backed him up for days.
Holy cow.
And so he had to.
I thought
there's
Elvis
a
was
yin
still
and
alive.
yang. Oh, you thought Elvis is still alive? I don't know, man. It'd be kind of great to find out if all these people that were such great entertainers and expired a lot earlier than they should by the effect of what they were trying to do in life. Cause and effect.
Alterated state.
So I think that we're in the box. We never did say the day. Oh, it's July 13th, my father's
13th,
birthday. Yeah. That's how that started. So how y'all been doing? We didn't have a Frankly Speaking last week because we shot a video.
we frankly had a good time.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody tell what we did last week. We shot a video.
Well, we have videotape, but we took a little rafting trip down the Oocee River with a bunch of kids from right here, East Chat, Glass Street, ArchWay. I find it, just to jump right into that, one, amazing how great of a turnout we got of the ones that even voiced a little interest.
It's like 80%, you said?
80+%
I'm
showed
always
up.
shooting for, if we is 60 or more in anything I do.
To spend an entire day, organizing here, going up to the river, rafting, learning, eating, coming back. Right, that was a whole day. I was exhausted.
Even starting out in the beginning, Miss Barbara's story that we
Barbara
didn't know,
Davis at
that we didn't know about.
Cox Paper, I had no idea of her story.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. So one, how great that we had that many come, but boy, we can really delve into what we think that they were anticipating versus what actually they experienced. I was amazed by the number of people of the kids when we got to the river said, "This is it?" Like, I thought it was going to be like whitewater park, like going to Dollywood or something. They had no clue that kind of stuff exists.
Exactly.
In the real
I didn't
world.
have a clue until somebody took me to the Nolichucky up in Johnson City, and then they started talking about it doesn't flow unless it rains. They call that free flow rafting.
Yep.
You can't go on it unless it rains. Up there, they've got it dammed so they can artificially control it, right?
Yep.
Kind of like our marketplaces. They can artificially control who has access and who doesn't because the dams are set up by insurance. We won't get on the insurance guys today.
Everything's a lesson, right?
Everything's a lesson. Did you hear Carlos saying that the whole time we're playing volleyball?
Oh, absolutely.
The whole time. I imagine he went
The
down
whole
the
day.
path.
The whole day I said it. Everything's a lesson. Everything's a lesson. That's what it was, though, right? The whole thing was a metaphor for business, for life in business. You know, whether you hit a rocky bump or you go through a little rough patch or whatever, the river still flows and you have to go along with it, right?
Some place the market's flowing faster than others.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to alter course. Sometimes you need help. Yeah, I mean, it's a
Just
beautiful.
hold up, hit a bank here and there.
Yeah.
You know.
I know I was really like debating on whether to go down or not just because I'm, so large and it's been a while since I've gone down. And my brother was like, he was like, dude, if you get hurt, who's going to collect the money? And I was like, well, I got
need you to sign
people.
this before you leave.
I got enough people, and he was laughing, and he was like, I'm not saying you can't do it in a wheelchair if you break your back or something, but you might want to think about it. And then that's when he agreed to fly in from Denver. It had been his birthday too. But I got to hear the story about my brother, because the great thing about my brother that is so fantastic is he doesn't do anything for other people that often. And I don't fault him for that. He's just a guy that has gotten in his way at 40. I guess he's 47 now, and I'm 46 years old. And, it's not in his nature to really, I definitely think he walks in the footsteps of Jesus, but it's not in his nature just to go out and try, because he's more of a wallflower, neurotic, kind of engineer kind of dude. And I just think it's great that he came in town and helped us out, and shout out to Chris Peterson in Denver for,
flying and driving and yeah.
Yeah, frankly, he didn't get in till like 1 a.m. on Thursday morning or Friday morning, and then he came up and. But what'd you think about the trip in general? What'd y'all think about it?
I think, again, I thought it went exceptionally well. And really kudos to you too for setting up something that was always, we always had a little pathway for the kids, and I think probably the best one is always had food, for the kids.
Always go by what my grandmother said. You feed people, they start to look like you.
and best way to anyone's, personality is through food, and really it was, come here, have donuts. They're like, all right, I'm in. What are we doing now? I'm like, oh, we're going here. Now we're having
7:30. Those
sandwich.
kids showed up at 7:30 in the morning. They were waiting on us when we came up.
Yeah. Well, and so
I couldn't believe it, dude. When I pulled up, and I was like, that's almost every one of those kids here.
I think the difference, having rafted and paddled and everything down the Oocee probably 200, 300 times myself. Like, what's cool when you take a group like that is I've seen it done two ways. One where you go up and you paddle and it's fun and cool, and another time when it's an experience, right? Like there's two very different things there. One is you're just going with this plain objective, right? We're going up there, we're going down the river, we're coming home. Here it was an experience. It was an event, right? Like the fanfare start, it's like the pregame before a big, football game or whatever. Come here, we're going to have donuts. Go up there, then we're going to have, sandwiches. Then we're going to play some volleyball. Didn't even know we were going to play volleyball.
Didn't even know they had a volleyball court till it was there, and that's what my brother plays every week with his contingency of stoners and drinkers and technology geeks and all the people that he hangs out with that are anywhere from 25 to probably 65 out in Denver. This is a very eclectic group of people from all over the country. have come into Denver, and they all play volleyball. And so he jumped right in.
But it was great because it made an experience for the kids where I think there's like every piece they're like, all right, I'm in for this. Oh, we're gonna eat again. Great, I'm in. Oh, now we're gonna play sport. I like sport. And then finally, when it was the time for the river, they were already engaged and a little bit more comfortable with everyone and the experience, even though, and I'm sure we'll come back to this a couple times, the number of them that, again, have never seen something like the Oocee River, the number of them that can't swim, right, and probably like rarely been in water over their head, and we're still ready and willing to do it, right? Sometimes I think it's that you got to build a little bit of trust first. I think we might have had a little different day had we left ArchWay, drove right to the river, said, get in the boat, let's go, as opposed to creating the experience that got them ready and excited and already kind of signing on 100% before we even touched the water.
Well, and I think certainly Carlos has a great story for what he told me a little while ago about RJ, this kid RJ that couldn't swim.
Yeah, it was a couple of them that couldn't swim. The kid Marquise said he couldn't swim. He jumped right in. But I think that just like he said, with us bonding with him before and on the way up to the Oocee, a lot of trust was given, and apparently we did something right for them to be able to trust us. Because I know there have been times when I was a child that I'd be with an adult that I'd be like, you know what, you're crazy, and I'm not doing anything you want me to do. This is not going to happen. But RJ, we went through a couple of little rapid spots or whatever, and got to this part where it was sort of calm, and the guide said that we could jump off the raft and just float. And a couple of guys said that they couldn't swim, and she said, well, you have the flotation devices on, so you should be fine. And RJ plumps over into the water. And then he
plumps over into the Oocee River.
Plumps over into
Trust the guide.
Trust the guide. Trust us.
Or he knows what she's talking about.
Me and Chris went in behind him.
Chris, my brother.
And then, like I said, he got into this channel.
And RJ's not a small dude.
No, he's a hoss. He's a hoss, big guy. But he got into a current or something where he started flowing a little bit slower than the raft was, so he got a little ways off. And the guy was telling him to come on back to the raft because we were starting to get close to some more whitewater. And so he was trying to get back, but because he couldn't swim, he didn't know the technique to start moving in water. He's sitting there just splashing like a baby. And he started to panic a little bit, got some water in his nose and got the choking, and you could see it in his eyes, that fear. And I swam up beside him and was like, calm down. You're not alone. If it was going to happen, it'd be done by now. Nothing to worry about. I'm here with you. Just do this, do that. And we showed him how to cup his hands, how to move water up under him or whatever, and he made his way back. Great experience.
Yeah, I mean, and that's we in our boat kind of a similar thing, right? When we got to the slow section where you can hop in, it's pretty deep. Oh yeah, go ahead and hop, jump. Do flips off the raft into the water. You're fine to swim here. Mm-hmm. And again, I think there was one or two in our boat that can't swim. But then heard you've got a life vest, your PFD, and the guide is saying it's okay, right in the water.
Yeah.
Like not going to miss the experience.
Personal flotation device.
PFD. Oh, PFD. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. And I think I told RJ, I said, well, you know what? If people were drowning out here, they wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
The business is not to bring people out and drown them in the middle of the river. If they say it's okay, then it really must be okay.
Yeah, right there.
You can trust that device to do what it's supposed to do as long as you do what you're supposed to do, which was the whole nose and toes deal. They told us to make sure your nose and toes were up out of the water and flowing with the current.
Well, and I think that's a great analogy for East Chattanooga, frankly. I mean, the reason why I paid for the trip and everybody was like, how are you going to bring this around to business? And they kept calling me going, I don't understand why you're taking these kids rafting when you're trying to teach them about marketing. And I was like, well, because I think that it's a good catalyst for the next, relationship-based. We got older kids now. We had younger kids the last contest that really we didn't get a lot of older kids to sign up for. Rafting is certainly something that maybe they haven't been exposed to. And then I realized they hadn't been exposed to volleyball. So now I've got in my head, I'm going to put a volleyball net out here, and I'm already designing swings around the park. But I think the analogy there is that there's a lot of trust that goes along with the commerce of the river, because if everybody was dying, then nobody would be making any money and doing business. And I think that is synonymous with what's happening in East Chattanooga when it comes to business. And the only business these kids see is corporate business. And I'm not discounting the guy that owns the liquor store, or the guy that owns or the gal that owns the hairdresser salon, because all of those people are intricate pieces because they're collecting tax. But when you go to a place and there seems to be more business being done, and the perception is it's successful, because a lot of times businesses aren't successful until you look at their books and you realize how bad off they are. If someone had looked at my books in my 20s, they would have thought I was driving a brand new Explorer, and they would have thought that all these things were great. But if they'd have looked at my books from a 20-year-old's perspective to a 40-year-old's perspective, wasn't making any money at all. I was just shuffling the cards. I was never winning the game. And I think that's what really the rafting trip and that RJ story is just phenomenal, that kid he just went over.
Plump right into it.
Yeah.
And those kids did that with volleyball, dude. I looked around and I was like, how many people know how to play volleyball? And they're like, no, we don't we play basketball. We do track. We do all that. And I was thinking, is volleyball a white person sport? Like, I wasn't sure if it was color.
It's the whole exposure thing. If you look, or if you think about this area or whatever, where have you seen a volleyball net or badminton net or any kind of net sort of like tennis or something similar to that? It's more so basketball, football. Their heroes are basketball and football. You know, that's volleyball, golf.
Yeah, because did you hear me teaching the kids about mulligans?
Yeah.
And they were like, what's a mulligan, buddy? And I was like, that's when you give consideration to the person on the golf, when you go play golf and you know that somebody hadn't played in a long time, or you know that they don't really know what they're doing. So you say, I'm going to give you a mulligan. And that so resonates in the business world when it comes to how many mulligans I got as a young entrepreneur. I'd go into banks and I'd have all kinds of NSF fees, and these people could identify with me because maybe at one point their parent had been in business or something and I'd be like, come on, buddy, I need a mulligan. Can you give me some of those fees back?
Yeah.
Help me out a little bit. And then it was that autonomous banker, my banker in my 20s.
Did you ever win that? You won that with banks?
I won that all the time because, let me tell you,
and I've never won
Pioneer Bank was the best bank for Michele Peterson to be in at the time that I was in, because they had a banker by the name of Merle Cason there, and that lady helped raise me from a business banking perspective. I would call her and I'd be like, Merle, please help me out. I promise I won't leave you hanging. And that woman would pay $40,000 checks for me where I was in the negative already.
Wow.
Now think about that.
It's awesome.
Like, I mean, how many people get access?
Is there a bank that will do that anymore, though? Really? I don't
think there is.
It's a whole numbers thing now. Nobody gets the love like that anymore. Yeah. Nobody. Yeah.
I think individual banks, somebody might call me and say, hey, buddy, I need this. And if I've got it, I hate to sound like Oprah, because certainly she's got a lot more than most of us, but she always says, I never lend money, I just give it. And I actually like the lending part, because then you actually give a conversation of, hey, I'll do this for you and that for you, and you do this for me, and here's the interest that we have, and is it usury? That's one of the things that obviously churches and other people try to talk about is usury, where their interest rates are 35%. You're never going to catch that game. But I just love the RJ story, not getting off topic, because, the whole thing, Doug Short.
Yeah, that was awesome. A guy in advertising. Yeah.
How you figure, man? You know that, I struggle so much with Is There a God? I struggle so much with that.
Our bus driver to go up and back to the Ecoe, turned out to be, a retired
Did you know
sales manager from the NBC.
I was talking to Mr. DJ.
Local NBC. Mm-hmm. How impressive. So then he was able to share.
He's driving us up there.
Which was a plus for me.
Right.
He's driving. Tell the story. We sit down and it's just me and Doug with the kids eating Penn Station, which shout out to Penn Station, dude, in Chattanooga down on Broad Street. They gave us a deal on the on the chips and
Awesome.
the sandwiches. And shout out to Groom too. I mean, I hadn't even heard from those guys. I don't know if they charged my card or not. I mean, they were a pretty expensive expense for me to get everybody up there safely. I didn't want to put people in people's cars, and I guess if we were a church, we'd already raised the money for a van. But I mean, we already established we're not a church.
Yeah. So again, it was so great. He drives us up, and we're sitting down having some food before the trip, or before the river trip, and yeah, he's just a little organic conversation turns into what I think it started with him asking you, like, so what are you doing here? We're like, what are you doing with these kids? I'm like, oh, we're teaching them business and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, yeah, I used to be in sales for 45 years.
Dude, it was like he went from, I was in the Vietnam War, which established kind of, he is a guy that, you know, quite possibly might have looked to the military for some opportunity in his life, or he got drafted. It'd be great to have him as a person again.
Yeah.
And he launched right into 45 years as the sales manager. What's the station? Channel 3.
WRCB. Yeah.
Doug Short, man. I'm sitting next to a guy that probably ran a sales budget of, I mean, $15 million, you think?
That'd be massive.
Yeah. I think that the number was put out there, and it was pretty.
I mean, millions,
pretty impressive
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And,
it's pretty impressive.
And then he's flown all over the world, flown over all over the country, talking to national advertisers too, and the programming on their show. And I'm sitting there a little bit like, hey man, this can't be happening, really. And then I look over at, I think I looked over at you, Andy, and I was like, is this really happening, man?
Yeah,
And I'm trying to teach these kids about advertising and product placements and I got a guy that's been doing this for 45 years, teaching other salespeople.
Guru.
A guru.
A guru. Sensei.
I have a Vietnam vet, Channel 3, what's the station?
RCB.
WRCB, sitting next to me. And here I am trying to teach these kids. And what he didn't know and what y'all don't know is that I'm in discussion with Comcast right now to get them to give me a channel on their box so that we can air programming, which is why I had those videographers go down with us and do the video so that we can get these kids to start doing their own talent shows and their own show me, don't tell me kind of thing and their own programming. And then hopefully everybody kind of begins to buy into this opportunity.
Amazing. Awesome.
And I'm telling him this and he's like, oh, I'll help you any way I can.
How about that? Go ArchWay.
Well, and for him then to just launch into with very little ask, you know, like, hey, would you mind saying a few things to the kids about sales, advertising, marketing, and beyond? They're like, oh yeah, for sure, and led perfectly into the, you know, the whole goal of the trip, like how you interact with people, how you present yourself, and how involved you really are in your business, right? In other words, being involved when you're talking to someone, being engaged, and keeping that all locked up in the memory bank so that you use those relationships to build your business, to build your product. And I mean, he just hit the nail on the head, and you could tell, and I think, Michele, you even brought up at some point, like, how many of us sitting around those tables were like, she planned this whole time.
Dude, I'm telling you, I struggle with the whole higher being thing. I don't know if it's just my authority issues or people I feel like have hijacked God, and it just always seems like when somebody's bringing up that sort of thing. But I promise you, I did not plan that.
Yeah.
Scout's honor on both the best women in my life, my grandmothers. I did not plan that.
Well, I think it's it's so great and part of the whole experience, and good too to show, I think, to the kids and to really anyone, you know, as well. Like, here's the guy who we hired for this trip as the bus driver. Right? That is the bus driver. And whatever association or connotation that might drive in your mind, like, oh, that guy's just the driver.
He's making $9 an hour driving us up to the Oocee.
Yeah, and I've seen and probably am guilty of before, just like letting that be like, okay, well, that's his job, and that's great. No engagement beyond that point, or no build out of that history until you open your mouth and start talking, and like, oh wait, you know, tell me your story. How cool. And what a great experience that, if those communication channels were never opened, right? Because I will say, when he drove up, it was like very much, come on in, come sit,
we had
hang
time.
out with the kids, we have food, and rather than just expecting him or asking him to stay on the bus or whatever else, like who knows all the little pieces that came together to find out his history and to give those kids a different experience. Like,
yeah, because if we had been really rigid doing it, and the Oocee people, they got a little bit, looked like they had a lot of folks up there, and they got a little bit like we may be at about 20 minutes late, right? If we hadn't had those 20 minutes just to sit there and not look at that time as the idle mind's the devil's workshop, but more importantly, it's time as currency in our world now. We got all these retirees, all these people have been looking for the promised land to get there, and they're just sitting at home watching all this muck, and here this dude rolls up because he's just still looking to stay busy. I mean, that's what he said. I'm in retirement. They called me last night. They called him at like 9 p.m.
Wow.
The mystery of all that. They said they couldn't find a driver, so they called old Doug because he had a CDL license.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, I'll take it on. And he just moseys on up, gets a donut. You think that's just some, dude making his money, having to go home. And to a certain degree, you've touched on that. Yeah. There's an assumption, man, he ain't done much with his life.
Yeah, but you know what? Think back now, Doug in particular. Think back to your perception of a bus driver, and then think back to Doug. He's clean cut, well groomed.
He got a good head of hair. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So looking at him, me didn't take him for like the average bus driver. You could tell that he had
Am I hearing you right, Carlos, that you think you have the better read right now than old
Not
MEP?
right now.
I'm thinking you bragging that you already knew that Doug was somebody.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that he was somebody, but you could tell that he had probably lived more than just in the bus driver world. He had ventured
that's
out.
The Harley driver in you, man. Maybe you Harley owners have figured out. I had no clue.
No. Me personally, people intrigue me. So when I size someone up, so to speak, I kind of pay attention to his shoes, how they talk, grooming, clothes, and bus drivers have always been like just the average Joe. But whenever Doug came in, his pants were pressed, his shirt was pressed, his hair was combed real well, clean shaved. He had jewelry on.
I did notice that he had a crease.
Nice shoes. So he wasn't the average, tennis shoes with the Velcro straps on them, bus driver.
That's what I'm going to look like. I'm just going to let you know that's what I'm going to look like as a bus driver.
That's completely what I want.
He was a little bit more.
Because the three of us are headed for bus driver land at some point.
I feel now, according to Carlos Staters, like when we met with my giant beard and refusal to wear anything but T-shirt and shorts and no chacos.
I said, this guy's a hippie. He's an outdoorsman. He's a hippie. He loves nature.
He is a future bus driver.
God only knows what y'all thought about me the first time you met. Let's go ahead and get it out. Come on.
Strong-willed. Whenever I first met you, whenever I first saw you, you were on stage.
Which is the first time I've ever been on stage. How
about that? And when they introduced you, I noticed you had a following because they introduced people in front of her, and it was like, hey. It was like, Michele Peterson, hey! And I was like, okay, she is somebody.
I those people. Though,
she invited all those people there on purpose.
I bought them
beers. She has entourage.
Oh, that's sweet. I did offer to buy people beers to show up. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, whatever works. But I'm going back to that. I'm really intrigued by people. What makes them tick? The highs, the lows, the whole 9 yards. It's like the kid Brandon. When we had the initial meeting about going to the Chloe,
that kid, man.
And you were saying how he shook your hand
doubt.
with a firm grip. Well, some of the things that he said in that meeting triggered my interest in him because to where most kids don't pay attention, to where most kids won't have anything to say, he actually stood out.
That kid has more talent in his little finger than most people have in their whole body.
And he has, what is it, charisma.
Well, he had more charisma.
Yes.
Charisma is a much better word than talent. That's what I mean by say that. That kid could control, anything he wanted
He could
to,
own
and
the room.
he could own the room.
He could own the room, but
and then he didn't go on the rafting trip. You want to tell why?
I hadn't heard the whole story. I think
you know why,
I got bits and pieces of it.
He had an interview.
He was part of that shooting on July 4th.
Which is not that uncommon. You have a lot of untapped resources in this area, in the kids and in the adults. People that have natural born gifts, whether by speaking, charisma, crafts, whatever. You have a lot of talent around here that's just not being tapped into. And I guess that's the whole thing with ArchWay is that we're going to be that conduit to get these people into those areas to where they can perform.
Yeah, use their charisma, education,
the
and
talent.
ability.
Yes. Because one kid said that he had never gone rafting, never even knew about it. But when they asked him in his interview, he said that when he became an adult, he was going to do it like every weekend. He wanted to do it from there on out.
Yeah.
So someone that, like you said, has never been in water probably deeper than a bathtub has gone down to Oocee, and you've probably changed your life forever. That's awesome. Awesome.
Well, it wasn't me. I just paid for it. I got to keep making money.
You got to start somewhere.
I know. I appreciate that.
You got to start somewhere.
Well, they're ultimately, and to bring this back to some of those goals, we had kind of said to the kids from the forefront of the trip is the idea of this is to educate you and then also give you a project, name that donut, to eventually take products from the area, from other businesses, and learn how to brand and market and sell. And then with the sales, money comes back, and not
what about
to
Barbara
us,
Davis, dude?
right?
Like, we got to give her a hand, man. Huh? Barbara Davis, seriously.
So there we go. They've got a donut to design and brand and name and sell now, and she's agreed to give the profits from those donut sales back to the kids.
We're thinking ArchWay Wednesdays, and if the ArchWay donuts are made,
then if they're made and they sell, then the profits come back to the kids to do what? To do more things like this, right? Like not the podcast, to do more things like the rafting.
The podcast is just meant to tell the overall public what we're doing over here and what opportunities they are from an employee to employer standpoint, to look at from an education standpoint, maybe doing things a little bit differently, where you got a lot of people running for school board right now. And I get the whole, understanding of what the Rolling School Board does from the top down. But the reality is it's those of us in the trenches that need to start telling our story, just like I told James Chapman and that young fellow's up there in Michigan and Ohio trying to make his way in the speaker surfing.
Well, and so I think what's cool is as we get the word out and as these brands and products start coming through, and maybe we can help culture a good support following to get some sales behind them. But what I found was the little, flicker of light in the kids you'd see and hear all day through that rafting trip. They understood the minute you said, when they sell these donuts, they get the money back, which is something that I don't think they or any kids really hear or see or feel very often, which is, it's a lot of education for the sake of education. Like, hey, come here, we're going to teach you about how to be better, bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, whatever else. But you don't get anything out of it other than your own brain cells, which is not intriguing. You need to see the real reward. So here, and I know Carlos saw it too, but when they started trying to figure out how they were going to sell their donuts and then what they were going to do with the money when they got there, what other kind of trips we're going to do. I was talking to this
kid, his name's Shamari, and I was just like, Shamari, all you got to do is smile, brother. You got $1 million smile. You don't even need to talk. People going to trust you because you smile. You're only going to work backwards as you begin to talk. And he was like, what do you mean, buddy? And I go, dude, you got that smile. Just you walk up to somebody, you get your handshake down. And Christian,
I believe he's the same one that says he gets in trouble at school because he always smiles, which is such a sad thing.
I said to him, his cousin Christian walked up and he's like, what are y'all talking about? And I was like, Shamari's smiling. He goes, oh, yeah. It's so funny, even at whatever age these kids are from 14 to, we had a kid that was 19, right? Justin. Most people might not think that Justin's a kid. He's 19, but I think if you still can go into your parents' insurance, what What they just do to the insurance land?
It's like 26.
Yeah, so they get till 26. If they can't be considered an insurance land, an individual, then because insurance to me is dictating what we all are.
Yeah.
As adults or children or kids. And I mean, I have to tell you that meeting these kids, I mean, look, the only female that went, Shug, other than the mom, I don't remember her name, the mom's name.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But I mean, this Shug girl, she could write her own check. She got out of her own way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she's just in her own way.
Yeah, she had probably the biggest turnaround out of everyone because she was kind of reluctant, and then even right up to getting onto the raft, she had this frown. And as we started going down the river and started getting used to what was going on, you started seeing that smile start to crack. And I took a picture with her, a selfie, and posted it. And you could see that gleam, you know, that I'm here now.
Yeah, she was not...
To where you couldn't see it.
The water was softening her.
She came all the way around by the end of the evening.
Dude, she was cracking up when I was telling my story about bologna, about my dad. It's so appropriate I'm telling this story on his birthday.
I don't think I even heard
I don't think my dad listens to my podcast. I don't know, maybe he has to listen to me so much. I call him. He actually says I don't call him enough now.
One thing you should know about your father that day when you brought him back over here, he was talking about the floors in here, and he said, you know what? I'm proud of her.
Oh.
And I said, how about that?
My dad has never been shy about telling me how proud he is. Now, my mother, you know, I tell people all the time, my mother is the reason why I keep chasing the carrot. Some people have the marketplace and being rich and doing all that, but my mother is the reason. She figured out, she told me a long time ago that when I walked home from school when I was 5 and crossed an interstate and somebody called her, had the fortitude to pull over and get on a payphone back in the 70s and say, I just passed your 5 or 6 year old crossing an interstate, that she was like, she knew she needed to hold me back. And I think that when I see these kids, I think about the fact that they're willing to go across the interstate, and some of them been beat down. That's what we were talking about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. My father not beating me. And I know violence is just, it's everywhere. We see it everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, negative truths, as I like to say. People don't want to talk about it, but it's negative truths.
Yep.
And the reality is just seeing these kids go up there and just organically start to soften. And, I mean, you know, from Marquise to Kayshawn. I mean, Marquise won our first Name That Donut contest. He still got $80 to go buy him a phone or do whatever, and he just hadn't thought of what he wants to do, and quite possibly might have don't have the discipline to get to me when I'm here. Or he's shy and doesn't want to come up. But his, you know, it seemed like his brother Kayshawn definitely seems like a pretty shy kid. Didn't say much. Watched him play volleyball. I tell you what, I got a very iconic picture that I told Gail Mitchell, the mother of the neighborhood. I mean, if there's anybody going to heaven, Gail's going to heaven.
She's awesome.
She's
I mean, did you see her,
Beautiful
man?
spirit.
She was all over that.
Beautiful spirit. She didn't go down the river, but
I think she went and put her toes in somewhere else. Like she waited. And I think the thing with Gail is that she just, you know, she's just the epitome of why Thomas Jefferson put the word pursuit before happiness. Everybody wants to focus on what Jefferson said, and what he said was in one word. It's the pursuit of happiness that gets you there. It's the process. He could have just left all of that out, dude. Think about it. When he was like, and happiness. Mm-hmm. He could have just said, and happiness. And you're like, and happiness. Oh, yeah, that's what we're after is happiness. But he said, and the pursuit of happiness.
Awesome.
It's almost like you never get there, right? You never get to full happiness. No matter whether you're 80, you're still like, if you're still trying. And I think that's the thing in these neighborhoods, people quit trying.
Yeah, and I think people are so focused on the finish line that they don't take advantage of between the start and the finish line, the actual journey to get, because that's what makes a lot of people. That's what made me. It wasn't the win or lose. It was the journey to get from where I used to be or who I used to be to where I'm headed to. So you can look back on those bad times and say, you know what, that was bad, but if I hadn't done that or lived through that, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yep.
I wouldn't appreciate the things that I am today. Yeah.
And that's true, I think, again, for everyone, and kind of full circle back to Shug and her experience. And really, I love saying that it's the experience of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked on how building these kids' trust and everything in us throughout the day, right, with drivers and food and volleyball and all this stuff. Like, her threshold was just a little bit bigger than some of the others, right? It took a little bit longer for her to
Did you see
live
how she
that
went
experience.
after that volleyball? When it
She's
went,
an athlete.
Yeah.
oh man,
She's a true athlete.
my brother said it was like somebody hit start, and it was like one of
Yeah.
those drag races.
Exactly.
Like that ball went out of the volleyball court and started rolling down, and I believe it was Quincy. He yelled, "Get it, Suge!" And I don't even know if the two of them know each other.
Yeah.
And it was like, "Get it, Suge!" And all of a sudden it was like, zip.
Yeah,
She's
gone.
an athlete, no doubt. And she was the one that I heard say, well, they don't have any basketball courts, they don't have a football field, blah, blah, blah. And she went down the line for things that, like I said, she's used to because she hadn't had the exposure for volleyball or golf when you start talking about the mulligans
Mulligan.
or whatever. And that's crazy. Going back to a point I thought about earlier, a buddy of mine, her son loves football. And in his mind, his scholarship to go to college is going to be through football. But now the school actually has a baseball team as well, and said he's a natural at baseball, minimal training, and there are more scholarships in baseball for
Not being filled.
for kids like him that aren't being filled because everybody's going for.
And if you look at the
football
University of
scholarships.
Alabama, dude, they're spending a gazillion dollars on their baseball stadium right now.
Exactly.
It would
And
make
he's a
sense for
natural.
her to look at that.
So the exposure to let them know, okay, the world's bigger than just basketball and football. You may be the next all-star volleyball player and never even knew it until
And had
going
access
to the Oocee.
And had access to put your own brand on your volleyball
How about that?
back because the others are bought.
Yeah.
And so the reality is, I mean, I'm looking at this kid, Elijah and his brother Josh, and I'm wondering, like, do they get it? Do they see what's available here? They could become excellent at rafting. And when they have these rafting tournaments, they could go down there or kayaking. They could put a different brand. It's a barrier
Cool
to
Running?
entry.
Was it Cool Running? John Candy movie?
I don't know. Was it
With
that
the Jamaicans?
Was it that
Jamaican
Kayshawn?
bobsled team, yeah.
Yeah, bobsledding team.
Was it that Kayshawn kid that I can't remember if it was Kayshawn or Jawan, but I mean, one of those kids. I got a picture of it. And I'm gonna post it with Frankly Speaking. So
Yeah.
instead of you putting our normal Frankly Speaking logo up, I'm gonna get you to post this really incredible picture. And I can't remember which kid it was that did it. And I was just like, I mean, ultimately, it was a situation where it was a kid named Isaac.
Yep.
Isaac, the dreadlock.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember Isaac. Yeah.
And it was just like he went up in the air to get one of those volleyball things, and I captured it in black and white. And I don't even know how I got it. The phone just went to black and white. I didn't do it purposely. And my brother was like, "Dude, did you get that? Did you mean to take that picture in black and white?" And I was like, "Seriously, dude? I was trying to scrounge for my phone."
It was great. It was a great picture.
I think everything was spot on that day. There was minimal chance of anything going wrong that day. Some of those things in the universe were just meant to happen, and I think that day was one of those times to where everything that happened the way it did was supposed to.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome time.
I think.
So what's the next trip for them? Rock climbing?
I think the next trip is ArchWay. We launch ArchWay.
Back home,
They got to come back here and apply their skills, right?
That's true.
the lesson.
The lesson.
Everything's a lesson.
And when I got back here, I was so tired, I forgot to tell them when it was going to be. And so hopefully one of them, Devin, will get us the recording. It's July 13th. Hopefully he'll get it back to us. You think you can get it back to us Friday, Saturday?
It's done. My Gmail had exceeded its limit.
So I think where we are with that is we'll have this recording back, maybe promote it within our circles, send some emails out. The kids, Yeah, so I think what we'll do is tell the kids and start launching the ArchWay contest. We got to get with Rondell. Rondell is just somebody I'm getting to know, and
The artist currently known as.
the artist currently known as Rondell. The one kid I think I didn't spend a lot of time talking to, Keontae, is that his name?
Keontae, which one was that?
I can't remember. which one it was, but I think that ultimately we had 12 kids, right?
11.
11, and we were
11.
expecting. Oh, we had Gabe.
Gabe showed up.
Dude, Gabe, Dave,
Jumped right in.
Nidra Davis's son, jumped right in.
Jumped right in.
And you
Awesome
could tell
kid.
Gabe was kind of from a different neighborhood, you know. And so the fact that he showed up here in East Chattanooga and was like, I heard about this contest,
Yeah.
and I
Jumped
was
right
like, holy smokes! Like, where you come from? He goes, I go to CS, what is it, CSAS?
CSAS.
Arts and Sciences.
And
Yeah,
I
where
was
my kids
like,
go.
how'd you hear about this? He's like, my mom. And I was like, who's your mom? And he was like, Nidra Davis. And I was like, I know Nidra.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things that, you know, the reality is that's what we're meant to do here is hopefully new kids. And with that diversity, I mean, I'm not opposed to having white kids come in here either.
I think
Indian kids.
the more diverse, the better for the kids, because
For sure.
they're in their own element with just kids that look like them. But when you challenge that and expose them to Indian kids, whether they're Middle Eastern or Native American, Asian or white, whatever,
Our very flamboyant raft guide.
a very flamboyant.
Did you have a very
Anthony.
flamboyant round guy?
Anthony, who had
I gotta hear this
he had
story.
flag toes.
He had what?
Flag toes. His toenails were painted in the U.S. flag.
Anthony had some of the most
He's like a stoner, though.
incredible hair in beautiful braids down
You know, I
below
thought
his-
that dude was a girl.
He had the whole stoner.
He had some makeup going.
I think he had something going. Yeah, most definitely.
And the kids didn't respond
would-
in a negative way, like there's some
Not
faggot
well,
on
initially when we sat down to
A
do
cigarette?
the
You got a cigarette?
Faggot's a cigarette in England, right?
Oh. If that's a word I can say because I'm gay, right? It's kind of like the N word. I mean, isn't that true that you can say that word if that's who you are and that the recapture of the word?
That's what I've heard.
you saw
but
I found
don't
this.
I mean, you really are the person who tells me that's the way the rules work, right? Come on, man. You never. Come on, Chief. You never look like you get choked up. I always choke you up on that N-word thing. I don't know, you know. But that's funny. The kids didn't respond to it in a negative truth.
Initially, I think yes.
think so?
When we sat down to do the instructional stuff before we got on the bus to go up to the river or anything, right? He's just teaching us about safety.
Yeah.
And the minute he started talking with a very, significant lisp going and very light voice. I think
He had a
it's fair.
stoner type
Yeah.
dialect, though.
See if you can do it, man. Let's see if we can
I
say.
definitely can.
Oh, no way.
Was he
Yeah.
like,
It was like a mix between, and someone even said, you sound like a California surfer.
Yes.
Like Spicoli from.
the whole Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
Oh, that
mixed
may
with
date
a little.
us. How I know Spicoli from what's the name of that movie? That stoner movie in the '80s. DJ, you know? Yeah, Fast Times at
Fast
Ridgemont
Times.
High, where Sean Penn plays Spicoli.
He had,
That would be close. And literally had straight hair braided into braids down below his shoulder blades, and you could just the kids started kind of laughing and saying stuff, and then he kind of organized them as a good guide would and said, "Okay, we're learning. This is it. Boom, boom, boom." And what I found completely fascinating by it is you could tell that Anthony has worn some makeup in his life and probably makes an excellent looking female when he goes out. If that even occurs, I don't know. Maybe he just likes.
Going a little far.
I've been around a lot of raft guides and all that. Like, who knows? He could just like to play that card with people coming to
I
raft.
do. I think sometimes people do things to just throw people off.
I think it could be
to throw their
completely
assumptions off.
in his wheelhouse to have decided that's what he was going to do all
I
summer.
love that name, Wheelhouse, isn't it?
So what I found great is after he did the education and literally became now the expert, the guide, the
person everybody trusts.
professional.
Yeah.
Even though initially they were kind of like laughing, pointing, saying things behind his back, the minute we got to the rafts and they realized there were 3 rafts, there was a pretty quick, like, I want to be in Anthony's boat. Right?
No way. Are you serious?
He is the guide, right? He is now the professional. I want to be in his boat, even though I was kind of laughing at him earlier. Like, it was completely
Dude, are you serious?
awesome. And then
it was him, and there was another gentleman that was kind of short and a little bit smaller stature. And then there was a small female, very small female. And out of the 3, if you just walked up and said, okay, who's going to be my guide? Because of Anthony's stature, I think you would have naturally chosen him because he looked to fit the bill of someone that you want to trust going down the river.
Especially if you can't swim.
Especially if you
It
can't
would have been
swim.
interesting to take a survey, because this is what corporations would do, right? Because they do this all the time to figure out people's instant and pretty much commercial behavior. If we'd have taken a test to see what kids admitted to not being able to swim, hopefully a percentage of them didn't lie, and then see if through their mistrust from a society perspective of what they may watch and who's laughing at whom, because that's what I told the kids around here at ArchWay. We don't laugh at people, we laugh with people. Mm-hmm. Again, we don't laugh at people.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem when it comes to pointing and shaking your hand, shaking your head and laughing at people, is that's when it's over. Yeah. If you're laughing with people, and that's what it sounds like they did, that they immediately have this kind of visceral, he's not like us, but then, oh, wait, he's the guy that might actually know what's really happening here.
Because he was the one that spoke up.
And because he was the one that did the class, he becomes more professional
Anthony,
than the other 2 guides, even though they probably teach the same class. But he was the one that day.
But they
and I think
they knew that
we need to invite Anthony down for a barbecue.
Yeah,
that would be interesting. I guarantee you.
He's a riot. Well, and that was the boat I ended up in. We talked.
We really need to invite all 3 of the guides, because
he was cool.
And Rob, who owns, let's give a shout out to Outdoor Adventure Rafting in Oocee, Bentonville. OAR, man, that guy took such good care of us and didn't say anything to us about the volleyball court. I don't even know if they rent that court. I mean, he gave us the ball and didn't even say anything, And if I had property, which I have a lot of property around Chattanooga, I try to monetize it. And like I told some lady who came into Urban Lawn one time when she wanted to have a pre-party to her party, I said, well, are you going to rent the space prior to coming in? Because she wanted to stay there. Remember I told you the story? She wanted to stay there for a couple of hours doing her food tasting. And we were conducting business, and I said, we conduct business here, and we rent time business. Mm-hmm. And she was like, well, that's kind of offensive. And I was like, no, I'm being straight up with you. This is what we do. It's like you walk into Home Depot, they sell 2x4s.
They don't just give them away.
They just don't give them away.
There's extras that won't.
But it's hard for people to equate time to currency. And I think that was interesting that Doug Short got that. And honestly, dude, that Anthony story, I didn't even expect that. Thank goodness. Yeah. Maybe we should end on that.
Well, I think you have more people out there that actually want to help than those that don't. And I also think that with the guy, what was his name again? That owns the place?
His name is Rob. And I don't remember his last name. I should have known that before but I mean, just Rob at OAR is how I got, and he texted me.
With him owning the place, you're going to catch more bees or flies with honey than what is it, vinegar, I guess, is the other thing. And I think that his customer service is just that. Plus, he must have saw what we were doing down there.
Well, and don't forget how I got to Rob is through Susan at Good Dog over in North Shore. I got to her, so this is how it works. And this is the amazing thing. We're sitting here, and I know we're running over, and we always run over. But the reality is somebody heard about the rafting trip. They knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody.
And we all know somebody.
It's no doubt.
Yeah.
And the fact that these kids, maybe in East Chattanooga, somebody stopped trying to know somebody because generationally somebody got offended or lost their life or got hurt. And I mean, I can't speak to that because I've never experienced it. Mm-hmm. So to know that this Brandon kid who we were all shooting for to be the guy that's got so much charisma didn't even go because he got locked up in juvie because he was part of this thing. And then to come back around and know that, you know, Susan at Good Dog knows somebody I know, and she took time out of her day. She's working a second job at Costco because she doesn't want to just continue to put in. She wants to go serve somewhere else. And so, and probably if I had to guess, small businesses pushing rocks uphill right now, she's trying to probably subsidize some of the intermediate type of business that we see in this feast and famine marketplace that we're in. And certainly she's got the density during the summer to sell hot dogs.
Susan is amazing.
She's an amazing lady. And
I hadn't met Susan.
And
And
so,
I like hot dogs.
well, I'm going to try to name that dog for her. We're going to try to get an ArchWay dog
Arch
for her.
dog.
I mean, we're going to let the kids name it, right? Everybody, I always tell the adults what we're doing, and they always start sending me pictures and names.
We
and
need
I'm like,
we need to utilize Susan too to teach customer service to kids because boy, she is just
A piece of the action.
She is-
again.
she is
Yeah.
on
A
it.
piece of the action.
yeah.
She is yeah.
Well, shout out to Susan, too, because
Shout
Susan
out.
was married to Rob, and good for them that they're not married anymore, but they still got a generous amount of respect because she was like, call Rob.
That's the only way to be.
I used to be married to him, and I was like, you married him? And she's like, it didn't work out, but call him anyways because he still likes me and I still like him, and he'll
Awesome.
take care of you. And they actually both said that.
Awesome.
And I was thinking to myself,
Yeah.
man, I wonder how often that happens where somebody says, call my ex-wife or call my ex-husband.
I was thinking about War of the Roses. When it comes to stuff like that, like divorced people just get ill. Watch this movie called ACOD, Adult Kids of Divorce. And it's got...
Is it a documentary or is it
it's-
fiction?
It's a fictional movie that's on Netflix right now. Hilarious. But I can see some of the similarities in some of the relationships. Like the mom dogs the dad's moved on, and got a younger wife, younger kids. More interested in the younger kid's life than he is the older kids. I mean, the whole dynamic was so spot on, I guess, to how I see kids that deal with divorce. It was crazy, but hilarious though.
Well, and to a certain degree, these kids over in East Chattanooga are dealing with divorce
Yeah.
because divorce of society.
Yeah.
Average income over here, $13,000.
Wow.
No entrepreneurship. Marketplace only created through street pharmaceuticals or gangs.
Both.
You know, marketplace over here potentially might be oriented that, you know, government is the only out. No private investment happening whatsoever. No insurance people looking to build something over here that looks like a bridge.
Dreams with a limit.
You know, it's like I talked about in Urban Lawn. You know, if we could tether the nonprofits and have them come over to Urban Lawn, because that's where everybody wants to be. And I happen to be someone that just pulled the telescope out and saw what was happening in Southside in 2005, 2006, and bought my piece of property. And now I can sell the time, right? Everybody wants to buy my time. Nobody, and I'm over here in East Chattanooga, and nobody wants to buy any time.
They didn't understand the value of time
Yet.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're
They
going to
don't
get these
understand
kids.
to see the value in time.
But that Isaac picture, that's what we're going to end on. When you see that, that's a kid named Isaac, didn't know how to play volleyball, and you look at this picture and you tell me there's not opportunity there.
Awesome.
All right? Everybody have a good day. Happy birthday, Daddy. Anybody want to say a shout out to any of their family members? Anybody listening? My family doesn't listen. They tell me they listen to me enough, so I don't even know if my dad will hear the happy birthday. Baloney.
Bologna sandwich. I want to take your father out to have a bologna sandwich. A proper.
Dude, I got to tell a story real
bologna
quick in case
sandwich.
somebody's like, what is the bologna? So, look, I grew up with a plastic spoon in my mouth. My parents poured in as much as they could. The love that comes out right now is because of what they poured in. And I moved up to Lookout Mountain in this ransacked kind of cottage at the Fairland Club when I was 24, when I was starting my business, because I needed someplace where I could be around the people that I had gotten to know in Chattanooga and also feel safe. And it was cheap, but nobody knew it was cheap until it looked really cute. It looked really cute from the outside, and you walked in and it was like it was raining indoors. The Fairland Club had really not done a great job maintaining their property because they were like everybody else, struggling through the 90s and trying to figure things out. So my dad comes back up there after I made a little money and refurbished the house, and I'm sitting there. Now, granted, he's a truck driver and all over the place, and he hadn't had his 2 strokes that he's had now that gives him the limp, which slows him down a little bit. And he's sitting there. He's like, hey, buddy. Hey, he calls me Jack. He doesn't call me buddy. He's like, hey, Jack, you want a bologna sandwich? And I was like, no, Daddy, I don't want a bologna sandwich. And I must have said it like, no, Daddy, I don't want a bologna sandwich. Like, that's beneath me. Or he already had that defensive stance from where he came
He
from.
was testing you.
Yeah, seeing.
Everything's a test.
Everything's a test and a lesson. So he goes, what do you mean, Jack? You too good for a bologna sandwich? I still wasn't picking up on this is his generational defensiveness.
He was throwing you to oop, and you didn't catch it.
I didn't catch it. And he goes, what's your problem with bologna? And I said, Daddy, seriously. And he starts escalating the emotion. It goes fire starter, right? And he's like, what's your problem with bologna? And I was like, Daddy, I don't like bologna, man. And so I'm gonna meet fight with fight, right? I'm not a fighter. I'm gonna buck up. And I was like, what's your problem, man? Come on, leave me alone. I don't want a bologna sandwich. He's like, this is a problem. You move up on this mountain and you forgot where you came from. And when I was a kid, bologna was the filet of the day.
Filet of the day.
And I was like, man, what is the deal? What does it? I don't like bologna. You got turkey, I'll eat turkey. And he goes, I'm not staying at your house right now. You're disrespecting me. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And he goes in the back and packs his bags. Now, mind you, he rode up from his semi-truck to Lookout Mountain, and he goes out, and it's 9 o'clock it was 8, it was dinner time. It was 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever time it was. And he walks out the door, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell just happened? But I know that's the way his father and all that violence, it was coming full up, man. It was the acid reflux of his life. And that Pepsid wasn't working for him.
The Pepsid.
And he was just like, you disrespected me. You think you're better than everybody else. You're up here on this mountain. And I was thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? But then I had to call my brother. He's like, we're going to call Daddy Baloney for the next 5 years. Go get him. And I went down, and he was about midway. You know, you could tell he was kind of second-guessing his thing when I pulled up because he's about right past Rock City.
Oh, man, yeah.
And it was dark. It was getting dark. And I rolled up and I said,
safe.
man, I will choke that bologna sandwich down if you'll get in this car. And he just kind of realized it just went with him.
Yeah.
You know, it just got away from him. It made me, you know, it was sad and funny at the same time.
It's a lesson.
But I tell you what, my father ever offered me a bologna sandwich again in that tone. What's your problem with bologna? That's the moment I should have known. What's your problem with bologna? This ain't about me, it's about him.
You gotten bougie.
I done got bougie. And I didn't even know what that word meant till the other day. Some kid was like, yeah, but you bougie? And I was like, what's that word mean?
Oh, no.
And then he goes, that's a new word for new money, right?
Yep.
Oh, it's bourgeois, yeah. Which I always thought bourgeois was a French term for middle class.
Well, it's the newly rich. You had the aristocracy, and the bourgeois got rich off of capitalism.
So the aristocracy,
instead of passed down wealth, it was they
New money.
The earned, yep.
Oh, got it. Well, maybe I am bougie. I don't know.
Bourgeois.
My whole thing is to figure out if I can still serve and not just be served.
We still got that date between me and you.
Well, I'm going to beat
It's a
you at
contest.
tips.
It's a
Then
contest.
you're going
See
to
who can make the
lose.
most tips.
We got to ask Baloney here because all Baloney talked about is you talking about the kids Carlos, when you were like giving the kids, you got to respect yourself. You got to respect others. That last thing
He
you
heard
said
that?
to them. And he said, man, I'm getting to like that Carlos guy. Because, you know, Daddy grew up in a time where maybe it was an individualized thing. If he didn't know you, maybe he made some assumptions that all black people are, you know, gangbangers. I don't know. But I know
I'm
that
the new
it's
and
taken him a
improved.
little more time to warm up to you for whatever reason. And
I'm a
when
big guy, though.
I warmed up to you right when I met you because you came up and you were like, you just had that thing.
It's
I could
vibrations.
tell, yeah, that
Vibrations.
energy.
Yeah.
All right, let's call it a day.
Bang.
Bye.
See ya.
See you later.